Metavision is one of the most powerful abilities in Blue Locck, so today I decided to go over all of the characters who currently have possession over Metavision, and the last player on this list I actually had no idea had Metavision, so if you want to know who that is, then stick around for the entire video. Anyway, I don't want to waste your time any longer, so let's jump right into the first one on this list, who is Blue Lock's poster boy, Isagi. Isagi used Metavision for the first time in chapter 183 after he had carefully analyzed Kaiser. In the previous chapter, Isagi notices how Kaiser wasn't even looking at the ball, and he right away knew that something was up. He explained that humans had two types of visions, their peripheral vision and central vision. However, when playing football, it's easy to get too focused on your central vision, but that didn't happen to Kaiser, and Isagi realized that he was constantly inputting new information that he gets from his peripheral vision. With that, he is able to get to the best position faster than anyone else. And to put it simply, Metavision is like a four-dimensional vision over the field, which helps you locate teammates, enemies, and basically everything that you need to know about the state of the field. Now, Isagi realized that he could mix it with his outstanding spatial awareness, positioning, and reflexes, and combine it into his new evolution. In the same game, Isagi also used something called Meta Burst Point, which basically is that he is able to see the most critical point in the enemy's play and steal the ball, which he used against Nagi as he shut down their play before it could get too dangerous. Now, something that is important to include is that Metavision uses up an insane amount of both your mental and physical stamina, as you are basically overseeing everything that is happening. However, with time, you get used to it. Now, at the end of the video, I will also say a fun fact about Isagi's Metavision, which I know that you don't want to miss. Moving on to the second player on this list, and that is Ryo, who also firstly used his Metavision in the Munchen City versus Bastard Munchen match. Now, it did say that he used it subconsciously, so we have no confirmation really if he can use it at will. However, I would confidently say that he can. Anyway, back to when he firstly awakened it, which is when he and Nagi had decided to once again team up, and Nagi was running straight towards Kaiser and Isagi. At this moment, Ryo knew that he had to find the best spot to pass to, and we see here that he did manage to activate Metavision to then pass the ball to the best possible position to Nagi. However, since then, I don't think we have seen him enter Metavision, as I went back and read both the Munchen versus FC Barca match, but also the current U20 arc. But yeah, Ryo is also a Metavision user. Next up, we have Kaiser, who I'm pretty sure is the second player we got to see use Metavision. The first one I will reveal later on. Anyway, back to Kaiser, whom I was unable to find the real panel where we got to see him use it for the first time. However, we know, thanks to Isagi, that he used it for his first goal in the Munchen City game, as it was from that play that Isagi realized what it was. Now, Kaiser is kind of blessed by the gods, I will say, as Kaiser doesn't only have Metavision, but he also has Predator Eyes, which work amazingly together, as with the power of Metavision, you are able to place yourself at the best position. And together with Predator Eyes, you can just seal the deal, as you are able to create an amazing finish and shot. But there's nothing more to say about Kaiser really, as we already know how broken he is. Moving on to the fourth player, who is Niko. Now, I thought that Niko's Metavision introduction was really funny, as Isagi had just in his mind said that his Metavision was superior to Kaiser's. But just then, Niko comes in and sweeps away the ball from him, and obviously Isagi is like, how is he able to do that? But Niko just coldly tells him that they are two birds of a feather, and we then clearly see Metavision in his eyes. However, when Isagi asked Niko if he also had Metavision, he had no idea what it even was, and Isagi then explained it to him. However, he still said that basically, all he did was track the ball while keeping an eye on Isagi. This made Isagi realize that Niko had subconsciously used Metavision, and as the game progressed, Isagi realized that Niko's Metavision was still very incomplete. However, I'm almost certain that it is at its full capability right now where we are in the story. However, it was pretty much a given for Niko to get it, as, like he said, he and Isagi are two birds of a feather. The fifth player on this list is Aiku. Now we basically learn 5 chapters after Niko's reveal that Aiku also possessed it, as right when Isagi thought that he would be able to get an easy goal, Aiku came in front of him and stopped him. He himself even said that he had Metavision and called it a superhuman ability to see over the entire field. Now, thanks to his new awakened Metavision, he was also able to see through Isagi in this play, as when Isagi was about to make another lefty direct shot, Aiku exposed him and revealed that Isagi was only able to use 40% of his left foot, basically being able to see through Isagi's specs by only seeing him use that ability once before. Moving on to the 6th player, who also is a Ubers player, and that is Snuffy. Now, Snuffy just casually showed it off right when he went in, as he came onto the pitch and without any trouble stole the ball, which was headed to Isagi. We also got this really cool saying as Isagi said that he got metadated. Now, obviously we don't know for how long Snuffy has had Metavision. However, with the fact that Noel Noah called him the best player in the world, and not to mention that he's pretty old, then I think that we can pretty easily assume that he has been able able to use it for years. Then, in the same game, we got introduced to our 7th Metavision player, who is none other than Hiori. Now, his introduction with Metavision is one of my favorite, as he came onto the pitch and said that he would unlock Isagi's potential to become the best in the world, and that he wanted to make Isagi the king. All of that was what sparked his Metavision to awaken, as we saw him enter Metavision mode right when he had said it. In this game, Hiori didn't use his Metavision in order to score, but instead to see Isagi's movements and supporting him through a shared vision which he and Isagi both had. With both of them being able to see the same thing, he could increase his play speed and minimize the time it takes for Isagi's strategies. However, with that, we leave our Ultra Sadist and instead move over to the PXG game, where we find our youngest Metavision user, who is none other than the brilliant prodigy Charles. Now, before even activating Metavision, Charles was outstanding, but it only got even more insane when he locked in and got the ball, as when he got it, he cranked up his Metavision and sent a pass. But it's far from just any pass, as everyone thought that it was heading to Rin, but it then, out of nowhere, soared past his head, and the pass was instead going to Shidu, who without even looking went to the ball and scored. Now, he and Charles basically did the same thing that Hiori and Isagi did in the Ubers game, but yeah, with Charles's Metavision, he was able to find and pinpoint this amazing pass, even though it was an over 30-meter long pass. But honestly, Charles having Metavision is really insane. As I said earlier, he is the youngest and probably the one with the most potential, so he will only get way better from here on out. Moving on to the 9th player, who is actually in the same game. It is none other than Karasu. Now, I'm a bit unsure. However, I think that in chapter 286, when Isagi was about to score using his 2-gun volley again, but Karasu came in his way, I'm pretty certain that this is the first time we got to see him in Metavision action. But honestly, was Karasu getting it ever a surprise? If you ask me, then no, not really. As I mean, he is Karasu, the analytical master after all, so it was not a matter of if, but instead, a matter of when. Anyway, with him getting Metavision, it just makes him so much more powerful, and I'm so here for it. Now we have finally arrived at the last player with Metavision, so the player who, I at least had no idea that he had Metavision, it is none other than Pablo, who we got introduced to in the 3rd selection, making him the first player we ever see use it. However, it's also in a bit of a gray zone, as it was shown in episode Nagi. However, I'm pretty sure that it's canon, and I'm sure that the author just didn't include it in the main series, for Pablo, because he just hadn't come up with the idea of Metavision at that time. But yeah, I had no idea actually, but in reality it makes perfect sense, as I'm pretty sure that Pablo is the best playmaker in the series. Now I know that he is a forward, but personally I just feel like he is a much more fitted playmaker. Anyway, those are all the 10 confirmed Metavision users. However, we also have 2 more players. According to the Blue Locck wiki, which I used for extra information, it said that both Sei and Lorenzo have been implied or hinted at having it, and while they obviously haven't been confirmed, I'm like 99% sure that they are able to use it, but just haven't gotten it shown in the series yet. However, take it with a grain of salt, of course. In the beginning, I also told you guys that towards the end, I would say a fun fact about Isagi's Metavision, and it also goes for Charles, as those two are the only Metavision users to possess a different design than the standard, as Isagi's Metavision contains his signature puzzle things, and Charles has thicker lines and no other ring, which is why only those two have it. For Isagi, I can understand it, as he is the main character. However, why Charles? Let me know what you think down below. Now moving on to me talking about which player I think is the next up to get Metavision. Now from this video, we have learned that Blue Locck has a total of 6 Metavision users. So far, if we don't include Sei. Italy has only 2, France has 1 with it being Charles, and both Germany and Argentina also only have 1 each. Now, firstly, I want to say that I think that every new generation 11 player we get introduced to from this point on will have Metavision, as they have gotten to this level where every good player should have it, or at least some version of eye ability. Now looking at the Blue Locck player, I'm actually not sure who would be the next one to get it. I know that I am a Corona Glazer, however, from the ones that we have, I think that it has to be him. I want to say Gagamaru, however something is telling me that he will get some sort of different eye which we haven't seen before. I also think that the future new generation goalkeeper will have the same thing, but with that in mind, there is only one player who I think will have Metavision the next time we see him, and that is the somewhat hated Alexis Ness. I do think that the Germany team need a massive upgrade to be able to even stand a chance to this version of Blue Locck, and with Ness gaining Metavision and being able to really play flawlessly with Kaiser, I think is a great start. Anyway, that has been me counting down all the confirmed but also somewhat hinted Metavisions. Please let me know who you think will get it next, and also if you have another video idea for me. With that out of the way, please watch another video, which is currently coming onto the screen, and have a great day. Bye.